In the heart of a timeless African jungle, where ancient baobabs whispered the secrets of ancestors and the morning mist cloaked the land, the secluded village of Zawadi once flourished under strict traditions. For generations, the people of Zawadi celebrated the untouched spirit of their maidens. Virginity was seen not only as a sacred gift, but also as a promise of honor passed down by the elders. Each girl was nurtured with care and expected to guard her purity until the sacred union, when the gods themselves would bless her transition into womanhood. Yet destiny, as unpredictable as the shifting savanna winds, had a different plan. It was during the festival of the moon, a night when the veil between the mortal world and the divine grew thin, that the first dark omen appeared. Under a silvered full moon, the villagers gathered in a wide clearing. Their voices rose in the ancient chants that had long echoed among the trees. High Priestess Nia led the ceremony with quiet resolve, her hands raised in supplication to the deities of fertility and purity. As the final notes of the incantation faded into the cool night air, a sudden chill swept over the assembly. From the shadowed fringe of the forest emerged a lone figure cloaked in darkness. Its eyes burned with an eerie light as it intoned, "The balance is broken." Before anyone could react, the figure melted back into the night, leaving behind an unsettling silence and the promise of calamity. In the days that followed, a mysterious transformation began to take root in Zawadi. The bright eyes of the maidens dulled, replaced by a haunted longing. A subtle restlessness crept into their hearts, a pull toward the wild, deep places of the jungle where old, forgotten powers stirred. At first, these changes were small, a fleeting thought, a momentary glance, but soon the pull became irresistible. One by one, the young women found themselves drifting away from the traditions of their forebears, drawn into a fate that defied all they had known. Among those troubled by this strange destiny was Tandi, a maiden celebrated for both her beauty and her quiet wisdom. Beloved by her family and esteemed as a living symbol of Zawadi's ancient heritage, Tandi had once believed her future was certain. But as the curse deepened, even she felt the weight of impending loss. Night after night, Tandi was tormented by vivid dreams. In these visions, her body was no longer her own, but a commodity to be bartered with mysterious, darker forces. The cherished promise of virginity was replaced by a fate that traded purity for survival in a world turned upside down. Rumors began to ripple through the village like a gathering storm. In hushed tones by the fire and in secret whispers behind thatched walls, people spoke of a curse that was stripping the maidens of their sacred state. "No virgin remains," the elders would murmur with sorrow as one by one, the young women, once the pride of Zawadi, fell victim to a fate beyond their control. It was as if an ancient malignant force had seized the very essence of their being and twisted it into something unrecognizable. Desperate for answers and determined to reclaim her people's honor, Tandi sought out Kofi, the village shaman renowned for his connection to the spirit world. In his modest hut, its walls adorned with relics and charms of a forgotten era, Tandi recounted her dreams and the growing unease within her heart. Kofi's weathered face grew grave as he explained the terrible truth. "This is no ordinary misfortune," he said in a low, measured tone. "It is the wrath of Mvumo, a spirit of unbridled desire and ancient grievance. Long ago, our ancestors revered this deity as the guardian of passion, but in their pride, they broke the sacred balance. Mvumo was banished and bound by a pact that grew weaker with each generation. Now, on that fateful festival of the moon, his dark influence has seeped into our maidens, corrupting the purity our traditions once demanded." Kofi's words ignited a fierce determination in Tandi. While many of her peers had already succumbed to the curse's call, she resolved to fight the malignant fate that threatened her people's identity. Guided by Kofi's wisdom, Tandi learned of the sacred grove, a hidden enclave deep within the jungle where the ancient spirits still reigned, and the boundary between worlds was whisper thin. Under the cloak of night, Tandy embarked on a solitary journey into the dense forest. The path was treacherous and full of strange sounds, whispers of leaves, distant calls of nocturnal creatures, and the constant sensation of unseen eyes watching her every step. After a long and arduous trek, she arrived at the sacred grove, a clearing dominated by a mighty baobab whose sprawling branches seemed to reach out in silent benediction. Draped in luminous moss and imbued with the wisdom of ages, the tree pulsed with an energy that called to Tandy's soul. With steady resolve, Tandy knelt before the ancient baobab and placed her hand on its rough bark. In that charged moment, energy surged through her, and visions flooded her mind. She saw the rise and fall of forgotten kingdoms, the eternal dance between creation and decay, and the bitter consequences of a broken covenant between man and spirit. In the echo of these visions, the voices of her ancestors murmured, "Redemption lies not in erasing what is lost, but in restoring the sacred balance. Our neglect has unchained Mvumo's wrath, and only by returning to our old ways can we mend the torn fabric of our destiny." Armed with this revelation, Tandy returned to Zawadi with unwavering resolve. Though the curse had already marked many, she gathered a small group of those who had resisted its full sway, a band of warriors, healers, and steadfast believers, and prepared a daring ritual to confront Mvumo's dark power. This rite was to be performed under the next full moon, when the barrier between the mortal and divine was at its weakest, offering a chance to reclaim what had been stolen. As the fateful night drew near, an air of anticipation and dread enveloped the village. The familiar sounds of the jungle now carried the weight of ancient warnings. With hearts fortified by resolve, Tandy and her companions gathered in a clearing beneath the great baobab. Their feet were marked with symbols of old, and their garments, woven with intricate patterns and blessed by time-honored rituals, reflected the legacy of their ancestors. With pounding drums and the fragrant smoke of sacred herbs, they began the ritual. Tandy's voice rang out clear and defiant, reciting incantations that mixed sorrow with hope, a plea to the ancestors and a challenge to the darkness. From deep within the grove's shadows, the air began to stir. The ground trembled, and from beneath the ancient tree's roots, Mvumo emerged, a swirling mass of shadow and raw desire. His eyes blazed with a fury that chilled the blood as he roared, "You dare defy me? I have claimed what was promised eons ago, and no mortal prayer can undo fate." His voice, echoing like distant thunder, sent shivers through the gathered villagers. But Tandy, her gaze unwavering, stepped forward into the center of the circle. "Destiny is not sealed by fate," she declared, her voice resonant with both sorrow and defiance. "Our loss is not a stain of disgrace, but a call to restore balance. We have strayed from the sacred path, and tonight we reclaim our honor." As her words filled the clearing, a soft, glowing aura gathered around her, a blend of ancestral light and the raw energy of the grove. Thus began a battle unlike any the village had ever witnessed. A clash fought not with weapons but with ancient magic and unyielding spirit. Dark tendrils of shadow lashed out from Mvumo, seeking to overwhelm Tandy and her companions. But every strike of darkness was met with the collective prayers of the villagers and the resounding strength of their ancestral spirits. The ground shook, the trees swayed, and the air crackled with the raw force of clashing powers as night witnessed the duel between lost innocence and the reclaiming light of tradition. For what felt like an eternity, Tandy struggled against Mvumo's relentless assault. Fatigue pressed down on her, and despair threatened to overtake her resolve. Yet the memory of her people's honor urged her onward. In a final surge of determination, she cried out the sacred name of the great earth spirit. At that moment, the heart of the baobab burst forth with radiant light. The luminous energy cascaded over the clearing, and the dark tendrils recoiled as if scorched by purity. With a final shuddering groan, Mvumo's form wavered and then dissolved into the darkness, his influence pushed back into the hidden corners of the earth. In the wake of that tumultuous night, the curse's venom began to recede. Though the mark of the curse remained, no maiden would ever again bear the untouched symbol of virginity as it once was. The people of Zawadi learned a painful truth. Purity was no longer measured solely by the untouched body, but by the strength of spirit, the wisdom forged through hardship, and the unbreakable bond with their ancestors. Tandi, now revered as the guardian of sacred balance, devoted her life to guiding her people through this painful transformation. She taught that while the old ways must evolve, the lessons of the past were the foundation upon which a renewed honor could be built. The tragedy of that cursed night was reinterpreted as a harsh rite of passage, one that, though bitter, nurtured an inner strength and unity among the people. In the months and years that followed, Zawadi itself changed. The scars of the curse were visible, a constant reminder of the night when darkness nearly stole the village's soul. Yet, in that very loss, the women of Zawadi discovered a new power. Their experiences, painful as they were, forged an inner resilience and deep compassion that bound the community ever closer. They became living proof that the human spirit, even when battered, could rise to reclaim dignity and redefine what it meant to be pure. News of Zawadi's ordeal and transformation spread far and wide. Travelers and seekers journeyed from distant lands to witness the legacy of a people who had faced a terrible curse and emerged forever changed yet unbroken. Beneath the vast canopy of the ancient forest, amid the rustle of baobab leaves and the quiet murmurs of ancestral winds, the story of Zawadi became a beacon, a reminder that even when cherished ideals crumble, the strength of a united people can rebuild a future filled with hope. In the aftermath of the battle, as dawn slowly rose over the scarred but resilient village of Zawadi, the community gathered to honor the sacrifice and renewal that had taken place. The ritual, echoing with the voices of their ancestors, had not only expelled Mvumo's dark influence, but also awakened a new sense of unity among the people. Elder women recounted old proverbs, and the young listened with reverence, their eyes reflecting the wisdom of generations. Tandi, still radiant with the lingering glow of her victory, walked among them, each step a reminder of both the pain of loss and the promise of rebirth. Her presence transformed fear into hope, teaching the villagers that even the darkest curses could be overcome with courage, tradition, and an unbreakable spirit. In the following weeks, as the sun reigned over the reborn village, the people of Zawadi embraced a newfound commitment to balance. They restructured their rituals, blending ancient customs with lessons learned from their ordeal. Village gatherings became celebrations of unity, and every chant carried a note of resilience. The elders, young warriors, and every maiden now shared a collective understanding that honor was ever evolving, a living tradition nurtured by both hardship and hope. And so, amid the timeless African jungle, with its echoing chants, ancient trees, and the steadfast heartbeat of its people, the story of Zawadi lives on. It is a reminder to all who hear it, even when the sacred is lost, the spirit endures, ever ready to rise again in a new dawn of hope and resilience. Do we live in a time in which our youth is plagued by a similar, if not the same, phenomenon? Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Also, make sure to show us your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel.